Praise be to Jesus Christ and welcome to Catholic Forum. I'm your host, Deacon Jim Thorndell. I want to thank our audience for taking the time to join us today on the show. And this Catholic Forum is really an understanding of bringing us into a deeper relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ, growing in our Catholic faith, and really having an understanding of what it means to live a countercultural life. You know, so it's so easy for us to say that we want to do that, but sometimes it really takes an enormous amount of effort to really take the courage to live that type of life. This show today is really going to center on a gentleman who's decided that he wants to live for the Lord Jesus and really live according to his Catholic faith. And what does that mean? It means that you're probably going to suffer some persecution. It means you're probably going to have even some family members who may even react in a way that you didn't think was possible. But that's all the important part of living a life for Jesus Christ. And today I want to welcome Mike Koelzer with me here. Mike, it's good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. You know, I think I've really kind of captured it because you are a pharmacist, right, here in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
That's right.
And, you know, your journey is going to be unique, but I would like the audience to get to know you a little bit first. Are you a cradle Catholic?
Cradle Catholic, grew up child number 8 of 12.
Okay.
So,
oh man, big family.
Big family,
wow.
Yeah. So went to Catholic, grade schools and Catholic high school and so on. So
okay.
So I've been that my whole life.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously your parents were very supportive of your Catholic faith.
Yes, parents were very supportive of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, where'd you go to school?
I went to community college for a couple years,
okay.
And then I went to...
don't forget West Catholic.
I went to West Catholic,
oh, okay.
Yeah, then community college. Then I actually went to the seminary for a year, tried that out.
Really?
Until they kicked me out of there. Then I ended up at Purdue University.
Okay.
And became a pharmacist.
Okay.
And entered the family pharmacy business, which
okay.
my grandpa had passed. My dad was in it, and it's a family pharmacy in terms of the 3 generations, but no other siblings that are in it, which is good.
Let me regress just a little bit because you kind of got me excited about this. In that year of seminary that you had, did you find your faith growing in that year? Did it help you to kind of really encapsulate who you are as a Catholic?
One thing it did do is I was started to date my future wife before I went down there, and
okay.
so I think what it did is more than even cementing my Catholic faith, it gave us a year apart to really look at our relationship. So instead of just falling into a relationship,
exactly.
we had to make some real big choices.
Sure. And we all know there's different vocations. There's the married life, there's single life, and then there's being a priest. There's another priest or deacon, that's a vocation.
Yeah.
And the Lord must have clarified that for you.
Well, yeah, I thought I chose the easy one until some of this stuff came up. So
yeah. So your grandfather started the pharmacy business.
He did, yes.
Okay. Obviously, they were encouraging you to be a pharmacist.
I come from, like I said, a family of 12, and so I was the last child. And I think knowing that none of my the last boy, I should say, and knowing that none of the other children were going to go into it was music to my ears.
Yeah.
And I had a love of science, and I liked the business part of it.
Sure.
And so my dad never pressed me into it, but it just seemed like a natural fit.
Yeah. Mike, just so the audience know, how many years is it to become a pharmacist? I know it's 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, it was 5 years. Now it's 6.5 years.
Okay.
With my year of the seminary, I was 7 years in college altogether.
Okay.
But
you thought it would never end, right?
Thought it would never end. So it was good to be done.
Yeah, good to be done. So when you came out of school, obviously you get your license as a pharmacist then.
Yeah.
Did you start working in the family business?
Yes, I started working in the family business. This is in the early 90s.
Okay.
I started working side by side with my dad, and there was more employees there too. And I got a call one day from my cousin, and she said, Mike, do you know that birth control pills can cause abortion? And I knew she was wrong because I would have learned about that in school, I figured, or would have heard about it somewhere along in my faith. And but I had to go and I checked one of the package inserts of one of the drugs, and it talked about the 3 mechanisms of action of birth control pills. And the main one is it stops ovulation.
Right.
Second one is it stops the sperm mobility. But the third one, in black and white, was that it decreases the lining of the endometrium, which can cause an early abortion by not implanting. And so I thought I had picked up just one by chance, a box that had just that wording, but every box in the pharmacy had that exact same wording in it.
So what did that, when you read that, being a Catholic, that had to be disturbing.
It was like tunnel vision. It was like I've never had a feeling like that. I knew it was serious. I knew it was life-changing the moment I read that.
Yeah. But, you know, here you are a pharmacist, and you're really in a business where you're serving the public.
Right.
And that was probably a fairly good amount of your business, I would imagine.
You know, it was about probably 5% of our business.
Okay.
But if you lose that, you've lost the young mothers,
Right.
and you've lost the young families, and so on.
Right.
So what I did when I found that out, I knew my dad and I were business partners, and I knew that I would have to talk to my dad about it. So I made a list of, you know, pros and cons and put together kind of an outline for my dad. I knew that he was the one I was going to have to go through to make this change if I was going to make it.
Let me ask you this. That had to be an extremely hard moment for you, because you probably knew that this was going to be a contentious moment between you and your father.
You know, I didn't know for sure because my dad, he had 12 kids.
Okay.
I didn't know if the birth control, it had always been in the store since I came in. I didn't know if that was a decision that he made. They kind of showed up one day and he just decided to kind of keep them figuratively.
Right.
Or if he had made a hard and fast decision, you know, against the church's teaching to do it. I just wasn't sure where that conversation was going to go.
Yeah, yeah. So when you made your list of all things to tell your dad,
Yeah.
And you're looking at the pharmacy and you're seeing what's in there,
Yeah.
How did you approach him? Do you remember that day?
I remember it clearly, yeah. So we had a cottage up in Empire, a few hours up north, and I sat my dad down and I said, Dad, you know, basically here's this list and here's what I want to do. And right when I started the conversation, I could tell right then it wasn't going in the right direction.
Let me ask you, were you partners in the business at that point?
Actually, we were pretty close to partners.
Okay.
We were kind of 50-50.
Okay.
But when it's your dad, it's like 100-0.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
You know, it's your
He's dad.
He's your dad, you know? So my dad said he would, he said he'd think about it, and about 3 weeks later, before he and my mom took off on a trip up north, my dad wrote me an envelope, and he said, Mike, he said, I don't have the time or the desire or the effort to talk to you about this point by point. But then he went on to write about 25 reasons why he disagreed with me, and each of those had about 3 or 4 bullet points. So he had like
So he took time.
75 reasons,
Yeah.
not face to face, but written down why he disagreed with me. And that was hard because he was the guy that I would go to for my mentorship.
Of course.
And here is the biggest decision ever in my life, and now we're miles apart with my mentor.
Yeah. So here you are, not only struggling with your faith on contraceptives, but you're also struggling within your own family.
Right.
On this very issue, and you're both Catholics.
We're both Catholics.
Both Catholics.
Yeah.
What can you remember some of is your dad still alive?
He's passed.
Oh, he
passed.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Because I don't want to speak ill of your friend. I'm
No,
sure
no.
he's a good man. And
Yes,
but
yes.
can you remember some of his reasons for wanting to keep? Because you know it's
Yeah.
important for our audience to hear that, because some people will come up with some very good reasons for wanting to keep them, and it seems to be valid.
Yes. Well, what I did, Deacon, actually is, even though my dad and I were 50-50, but again, he was my dad.
He's your dad.
I knew the line in the sand was kind of drawn. And so what I did is I took his 50 points and I actually typed them all out, and point by point I went through, and he was wrong. He was wrong on 50 points. Some of them were, most of them were the freedom to let people, we're not a Catholic pharmacy necessarily, we're not built on a Catholic pharmacy. Let people, have their own choices. People have the freedom. He didn't want to be judgmental. The list went on and on for 50 points, and every one of them I had a disagreement with. But I that's all I did was disagreed on paper because he had spoken, basically.
So here you're kind of in a quagmire now.
I'm in a quagmire, and I'm in a quagmire for like 5 or 6 years, and I'm like, every day I wake up, I'm like, God, I'll do what you want me to do, but does this mean staying or does it mean going?
Yeah.
And I'll do it, but try to give me some direction.
Was there any thought about leaving the pharmacy?
There was thought of leaving, but I didn't feel like I didn't feel like I was being impressed to do it at that time.
Right.
I didn't feel that. Finally, about 5 or 6 years later, I had this tremendous feeling that it was time now to make the decision to stop. Before I seemed to be controlling, like, okay, Dad, I'll do this, the store will do this, and all this will happen. But now it was more of it was like, okay, Mike, I am going to stop, and Dad, I'm going to make you kind of make the decision for this. I'm not going to press me on you.
Right.
I'm just going to do what I feel I have to do, and you can make that decision. My dad and I met, and by this time 6 years has gone by. He's also a smart business guy, so he's thinking Mike's going to do this eventually.
Yep.
So he said, I don't agree with you, but I support you. The blessing or the miracle was was a week before then. We had a couple months where I was going to prepare the customers and the staff and all that. And a week before that, my dad lost his memory from cancer, which is swelling his brain and things like that. But if I did not have had that conversation with him after waiting for 5 years, if I didn't have that conversation with him, I always would have missed that chance to think that I went man to man with him and that I stood up for it and give him the chance to say yes. So that's kind of my little miracle that had happened that way.
And that was really very gracious of your father to say, you know what, I trust you and I respect you as a man. And even though I can't agree with you 100%, I give you the latitude to either succeed or fail.
He did, and he, I think at that point now he's, he was like 70, 72, and so he knows that, he knows I'm probably walking if I don't get it.
Exactly.
And so he probably made the best decision he could make. So I think it was, I'll give it half spiritual and half businessman,
Okay, now let's get down to the nuts and bolts, because you're making this decision that you are going to take any contraceptives out of your pharmacy.
Yeah.
And as you said, when I suggested it wasn't a big portion, but I was thinking the same thing, is that once you take that out of there, the people with every other prescription are going to try and find a pharmacy that's going to supply all of it, correct?
Yes, exactly. If someone's on birth control but they have 2 or 3 kids, now they're taking their 2 or 3 kids for all the antibiotics.
And all,
you got it.
All that other stuff there. So as you went in, this was really a conscious decision to follow the teachings of the church.
Yeah, it was a decision to follow the teachings of the church, and what was finally impressed on me was, there was so much good I thought I was doing by keeping this going, and being loyal to my dad and being involved in all that. But finally, what really pressed on me was that I could not use evil to bring about good, because so much good was happening, but I was using this evil of contraception to make that still happen.
It's kind of like our prayer. Oh God, I know this isn't good, but right now I can't afford to do this. And we always make those exceptions for ourselves, don't we?
That's right. We sure do.
Because it's easy to do that.
It's easy to do.
I can look at you and say, God, I should have made that. But don't ask me to make it.
Yeah. That's right. Exactly.
So how was your family reacting to all this?
My wife supported it. She was like, she's like, Mike, the timing's not great here. I mean, we're on our 6th baby. We're just starting our new house and all this kind of stuff. So the timing wasn't great. My siblings and that, they weren't part of the business. Okay. So I never looked for any feedback from anybody.
Sure.
It was me.
You must have taken this to the Lord quite often.
I did. I took it, for 7 years I was stuck in this position.
Yeah. So when you finally decided, Mike, that the time has come, did you have to wean this out, or is it kind of we're done? How does that work?
Well, what I did was I turned it into, as a business person, we base a lot of things on morals.
Right.
But actually, the final decision is a business decision. So I turned this into a business decision that we were no longer carrying these products.
Okay.
So I made it very clear in my mind. I said, God, I'll do this, but I'm not going to turn this into, right now at least, a teaching moment or a spiritual moment. I'm turning it into a business moment that we're not carrying this. Just like we don't carry, tuna fish, or
right.
we don't carry
exactly.
whatever,
Exactly.
So that's how I approached it, as it's a business decision that I'm making not to carry a certain product.
Now, when you make this decision, obviously you're going to have some people be irate.
Yes.
Or some people are going to react.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit, how did that go over in the community which you were serving?
Well, what I did first is I gave my team at the store, I just wrote them, I wrote all of them a letter, put it all in their mailbox, and I said, on this date, 2 months from now, we're no longer going to carry any contraceptives in the store. If you have any questions, or if the customers have any questions.
Does that include condoms and everything else?
Yes,
okay.
It included all of them.
Okay.
On very different degrees, there's different degrees of sin or evil, I guess you could say, but none of them fit in the church's plan. So right. I thought, might as well take
For
one.
The glory of God.
Might as well take one stab instead of a bunch of little.
That's right.
So I sent them a letter. That gave them a chance to, give them a couple months if they were either embarrassed or wanted to find a new job or whatever. But a couple of them came to me and were concerned about the business, what would happen to it. But none of them left. But I was very careful not to preach to them. Again, it was just, we're just not doing this.
But they knew you were Catholic.
They knew, and everybody knew why I was doing it. Okay. But I didn't pour salt in the wound.
Exactly. Exactly. But it was a moral decision you made based on the teachings of the church.
It was.
But a business decision based on that.
Yes, and so I make a lot of business decisions. Of trying to price fairly and trying not to, people who can't see, don't give them back the wrong change,
right.
That kind of stuff. You just make general decisions. And so this was based on that. The opposite of that, so the reason I did this is because then I sent this letter to about 200 of the customers then.
Okay.
And I said, on this date, we're stopping this again. And that was very dry. It was just, we're stopping this, and if you have questions, you can let me know, and that's kind of the end of it.
Sure.
There's been not a lot of us crazy pharmacists in the country that have done this, but out of the 5 or so that I know, the ones who made that letter, who mixed that with faith of, you evil sinner, it's like, that didn't go over too well.
Yeah, you have to temper that.
That didn't go over too well, so I made it very, very structured.
I would think 99% of the people that you would write that letter to could very easily read between the lines without you having to proselytize.
Yes.
Because nobody would take that out intentionally to destroy their business.
No, that's right.
Not unless it's for a greater cause.
Yeah, they all knew, and another decision I had to make too it was important, and we see it now with, for example, the cake makers for the gay
right.
weddings and so on. This was, I was smart enough, or God gave me enough wisdom back then, to turn this into a product. So in other words, I wasn't carrying a product. It's not that I wasn't carrying a product for certain people.
Right.
So what I needed to do is I stopped this for, in theory, there could have been a 85-year-old sister, a nun who was on this for some
medical
reasons,
right.
she no longer could get it from the pharmacy.
Exactly.
And no longer could a 13-year-old get it from the pharmacy who was on it who was the best, Catholic this in the world, but was on it for acne. No longer could they get it.
Sure.
So I did it strictly for, it was strictly a product choice then.
Exactly.
And a lot of this was just to avoid some of that, judgmental stuff. So I was like, no, I'm not judging. I'm stopping a product.
I'm doing what my conscience tells me to do.
Yeah, I'm doing what my conscience tells me to do.
Exactly.
Yes.
Now, there had to be two sides of that coin. There had to be some bad results with some customers. Did you ever get any feedback that was negative?
Yes. I got,
Were you sanctimonious for any of them?
I got a handful of feedback from people. Some of it was, I understand what you're doing, and we're not on this for contraceptive reasons, so thank you, and we'll get our business, we'll do this part of the business elsewhere. And some people just, really, really laid into me.
Yeah.
And but you know what? It's like I'm smiling inside because it's like, hey, I made it past my dad.
That's right.
Once I made it past him, I didn't care what the customers were saying.
And Jesus kind of warned us that if we're going to live the life that He wants to lead, we're going to suffer some persecution on that.
That's right. Yeah.
But let me ask you this question: How have you seen the business change now since then?
Yeah. So when this happened, so this was now 12, 13 years ago, and business just kept improving. It was not much of a blip. I think that it has, it probably has kept away part of the population. Thankfully, besides contraceptive, the age of a woman at that age doesn't take as many medicines as babies and the elderly do.
Exactly.
But we've been moving on, and people say to me, "How do you think it's affected your business?" I think that if I had to be a business person with that weight with that weight on me, I wouldn't be as eager and as free and as alive in the business, and that could have brought down profit.
Sure.
And the fact that I feel free now that I think I'm doing what's right, gives me more energy to probably pick up profit in other areas.
Now, we talk about a pharmacist and a pharmacy, but the pharmacy consists of more than just the pharmacy. You have it actually as a drugstore. Is it?
It's medical based, so it's more medical equipment and things like that. So wheelchairs and walkers and things like that. Okay. And certainly drugs are the biggest part of what we do, though.
And you're based here in Grand Rapids?
Yep, we're based in Grand Rapids, over on the northeast side of town.
Do you care to give us the name of the pharmacy?
It's K Pharmacy.
Okay.
K-A-Y Pharmacy, and we pick up. We pick up some customers from this, but I don't blame people. There's a lot of great businesses in town that I think I should probably do that, but the distance sometimes or whatever. So
exactly.
So we some of the things my dad had written to me, I have taken to heart. So for example, I don't think of myself as a Catholic pharmacy. I think of myself as a great pharmacy and the best pharmacy I can be.
And I happen to be Catholic.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't put myself in a division of saying we're the Christian or Catholic pharmacy. I just try to do the best I can at it.
And that's what God calls us to. He calls us to be the best witness we can where He places us. And you have a business that serves the community, and out of charity, that's what you're called to do. And the nice thing you did was when you wrote that letter, like you're saying, you weren't proselytizing what a great Catholic I am. I'm just saying that this is a product line that I no longer decide to carry.
That's right.
And you don't have, like I said, most people would read between the lines on that and understand that if there's a moral implication, he's merely, following his conscience.
And some people will come to me and they'll ask, and I'll give a little bit of information, and I know if they want more, they'll ask more, and we'll make that steps together.
Exactly. Exactly. How is your immediate family accepted all this now?
To this day, I've never talked to really my siblings about it.
Yeah.
I just don't. I've never, none of them have mentioned it. I've never said anything to them. I think it's a witness to my children.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who they know what I went through to not carry these in the store. But I think it's probably a witness to to a bigger witness than contraceptives, but just maybe a little bigger witness to just do what you feel like you have to do, and the chips will fall in.
It's really a witness to the power of God too.
Yeah.
To really give you the courage to really follow your conscience. How did it affect? Did it ever negatively affect you and your wife for a while? Was there some strain on that? And she's thinking maybe this is, like I said, not the right time, and
Well,
you had to make that decision.
My wife and I always had an agreement. We have 10 children.
Huh.
And
Thank you.
We've always had an agreement that that during the first 6 months of a baby, we don't make a major decision, like buying something big, or moving away or getting a divorce. I mean, I'm joking about that, but that was our big decision in 6 months. We would never get a divorce within 6 months of a baby.
Right.
So here
That's
I come.
a wise decision.
So here I come home after basically we had just put the down payment and just started framing in our house. We just had a baby, and now I'm making this decision. And my wife's like, why now? And I said, I don't know. But that's where, if I would have waited 2 more months, my dad's mind would not have been there, and I never would have been able to do that man-to-man with him.
It was God's timing.
It was God's timing.
It was God's
really
timing.
was.
You were really following the Lord.
It was God's timing.
He must have been whispering in your ear because he knew your father's health also.
I believe so, and I think, and my dad for 3 years could not think straight, and I would have felt so cheap going and so small going kind of behind his back.
As if you waited till no longer.
If I waited till Dad can't do anything about it anymore, and then after he died, I would have maybe felt like I chickened out. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
It was really God's timing on it.
It's wonderful because it really gave you a closure with your dad on the business.
It certainly did.
Yeah, and that's
certainly
important.
did.
And is your children interested in pharmacy?
None of them really are. I've got some that are interested in the business aspect.
Yeah.
But pharmacy right now is really dominated by, just like all medicine, really dominated by the third-party payers and insurances and stuff. And so I love it. It's great for me still. But there's writing on the wall.
You came out of the old school.
I came old school, I saw it coming. But there's so much power now on the governmental insurance side that I would probably like to see this that I'll probably wrap it up.
Yeah, it's a different business.
Yeah.
Or they could take over the business and hire pharmacists.
They could do the business and the pharmacist, but sometimes at 9 in the morning when you get a call from the pharmacist and they have appendicitis that just happened, sometimes it helps to still be a pharmacist.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm so encouraged by your testimony here because it really, you're a witness to other people who are saying, I don't think I can do that. And the reality is, yes, you can. But you really have to put your confidence in God. And it sounds, Mike, that's exactly what you did. You said, you know what, I'm going to walk by faith and not by sight.
And what happened actually, Deacon, was, in truth, it's like the weight of God on me was so heavy, and the pressure and the guilt and the pain, that it's like, God, how can I get you off my back?
Yeah.
By
cooperating.
So I appreciate, I appreciate the positive slant you have on it. Yeah. But I'm like, get off my back. Tell me what to do so I can free my conscience up.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I want to thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure having you here. We've had some great conversation here. Thank you for saying yes to God, and thank you for being open to life. That is such a joy, and I'm going to continue to wish you the best blessings on your pharmacy and your business. So thank you again for being here.
Thanks, Deacon.
And I want to thank all of our audience today for watching us, and as always, we give all praise to Jesus Christ in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
We are